Greetings, brothers and sisters of the Discalced, the secular order of Discalced Carmelites, and others who are interested in the secular order and what it means. I have been talking about excerpts from a book that is mine, that I wrote in 2009 about the secular order. And I'm talking about the description that I give in page 9 of this book about the secular order member, and we talk about the different elements of this description. Practicing member of the Roman Catholic Church, under the protection of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and inspired by St. Teresa, Jesus, and St. John of the Cross, makes the commitment to the order to seek the face of God for the sake of the Church and the world. We talked about element by element. In the last video, in video number 6, I talked about inspired by St. Teresa of Jesus and St. John of the Cross. It's the third of the 6 elements of this description. And just to finish up on some things with regards to the academic or intellectual foundation of the Discalced Carmelite life. The orders of the church, the order, St. Benedict's order, St. Dominic's order, St. Francis' order, St. Augustine's order, Carmelite order. The orders were not founded for a specific apostolate. The orders were not founded specifically for ministry. The orders, all of those orders that I mentioned in the Western Church, the orders were founded for a lifestyle. Were founded to live in a certain way. You know, for example, SVD fathers, they were founded, the Society of the Divine Word, they were founded to be missionaries. Missionaries of the Sacred Heart, exactly that, missionaries. The De La Salle brothers founded to be teachers. The different congregations of sisters that we're all familiar with were founded to be teachers, or founded to be nurses, they were founded to do social work of some kind. But the orders, all the orders have an identity with the charism of the church. For example, with us, the Discalced Carmelites, our work is fundamentally, according to St. Teresa and St. John of the Cross, the knowledge of God, personal knowledge of God, personal commitment to the knowledge of God. And it's founded on the teachings of St. Teresa, St. John of the Cross. Now, some of you, I'm sure, have had maybe some negative experiences with people who misunderstood what it meant to be a third order member. Believe me, my experience is the majority of people who have a difficulty understanding what a third order member is are the priests who belong to the orders. They don't understand the vocation of a secular order member. I'm going to tell you about the 2 experiences that I had early in terms of this secretariat that I began. I visited the different provinces around the world. Many, in every context. And in one of my very earliest visits, I won't say to what province, but I arrived, and the provincial, we went to the provincial house. I arrived at the provincial house, which was also a student house. There were a big community of priests and of students. And the provincial gave me a very big welcoming speech. Oh, welcome, Father Aloysius. Never has, this is the first time in the history of the order that somebody has come specifically not to visit us, not to visit the nuns, but to visit the secular order members. Welcome, you're so welcome. We are so happy that you're here. Then we sat down to dinner, and at the end of the dinner he said, "Come here, Father, listen. Don't bother our people with St. Teresa of Jesus and St. John of the Cross. It is enough for them to have the rosary and the scapular. Huh? From a Carmelite priest, a provincial? Enough, the rosary and the scapular. Second experience. In 1990, I think it was 1990, it's been a long time, but in 1990, there was a book written in Spanish on the different spiritualities of lay people, or for lay people. There was a whole section on, it was written by a Jesuit in Spain, whole section on St. Ignatius and how St. Ignatius can help the 30-day retreat, the spiritual exercises, how it fits into the life of lay people so fine, so well. There was a big section on Franciscan spirituality. There were two paragraphs on Carmelite spirituality. And in the first paragraph, he describes St. Teresa of Jesus, St. John of the Cross, basically fundamental teachings. But in the second paragraph, he said, Carmelite spirituality is not made for lay people. It's for people who live in monasteries and convents. What? My experience has been entirely the opposite. My experience has been that the lay people who are attracted by St. Teresa and St. John of the Cross, they know they're lay people. They know they're not priests and they're not nuns. They're not trying to be priests. They're not trying to be nuns. They have a husband or they have a wife or they have children or they have parents. They have obligations to work. They have people that they have to work with. They're very clear about their identity. They're not trying to be imitation religious. It's the religious sometimes that have a problem understanding how can a lay person have a spiritual life, because we've, in some places, in some ways, we've clericalized. Clericalism, very famous now because Pope Francis has spoken very clearly about the danger of clericalism. But clericalism has invaded in some people's minds the idea of spirituality. It's for we who pray, you who work. Or as Father Camilo said one time, that the work of the layperson is to pray, say prayers, pay for everything, and obey, do what the priest tells you. When he said pray, he didn't mean meditation. No, say the rosary. Rosary is one, I have absolutely nothing against the rosary, and I'm very devoted to the rosary. I even wear one because of my devotion to the rosary. But when I put this provincial together with this Jesuit in Spain, I'm left bewildered about what their experience is of lay people. My experience of lay people throughout the world is they're very interested in Carmelite spirituality. I know lay people, especially here in Southeast Asia, I know lay people that can give courses on every single one of the works of St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Jesus. And they understand it as people living in the world. They understand it as people trying to have a relationship with God. That's the important point. Having a relationship with God. This is what the teaching of this is why we have to pay attention to the teaching of St. Teresa of Jesus and St. John of the Cross. If we're going to be sons and daughters of St. Teresa of Jesus and St. John of the Cross, if they're going to be our holy parents. So what they have to say is essential to the identity and to the functioning, to the living of a secular order member, or a priest OCD, or a non-OCD. So those experiences got me fired up, you might say, to really really support the vocation to the secular order, the laicity, lay people, and so it's in the constitutions, and you can see in the constitutions that it really supports the idea of your constitutions, that it supports the idea of you living the spiritual life according to the principles given to us in the most beautiful writings of spirituality that exist in the church. The writings of St. Teresa of Jesus and St. John of the Cross, and St. Teresa, and St. Teresa Benedict of the Cross, and St. Elizabeth of the Trinity, and could go on and on and on with the Carmelites who have testified by their lives, which they've also coordinated with their writings. They testify to the reality of Carmelite spirituality. Don't forget, if you have a chance, to subscribe to this channel, to hit the bell to get the warning. There's a little bell next to the subscribe button, and then finally hit like if you like. Any questions or comments you can make below. God bless you.